we have fared reasonably well in balancing the interests out. We can't change our neighbor, then some of the issues which arise from our neighborhood. The economic empowerment in the policies is one of the major issues. We'll have to see how we can economically empower ourselves to strengthen ourselves in this turbulent world which we are facing today. Well, I feel as a nation, in a very troubled world, we seem to have done not too badly, considering the overall economic pressures which the country has faced. I feel today's politics is economics. And from the reaction of different countries and the prominent countries, we were sort to be put under some pressures on the economic front. And I think we have fared reasonably well in balancing the interests out. We can't change our neighbor, then some of the issues which arise from our neighborhood. The challenge, of course, is that in areas such as employment, I think the country will have to do something more. Population is an advantage for us. It is also a disadvantage for us because there are so many more people wanting the expectation to be met. On a judicial front, I think one of the issues which was dealt with is, and important has been, that with the economic development, the judgment of the Supreme Court of the Constitution Bench reviewed the position in Bhushan Steel to revive the principle of enterprise rather than liquidation. And it would have troubled the country economically had the earlier view, I believe, prevailed. I would say also that on a gender rights issue, the Supreme Court ruling in favor of a gender right and self-identity in cases arising from transgender and queer community and constituting a committee have been major issues in this field. So in the coming year, I think what is important is that we will have to see how we can economically empower ourselves to strengthen ourselves in this turbulent world which we are facing today, how to balance the interests which are there of our economic and political and social interests arising from our ties with different countries over a period of time. There has been flip-flop on this issue by many countries, but I think the importance of the country in the economic field, especially its manpower, should help us in this area. I still believe, as I said, what is the challenge of this year will also be a challenge of the next year. How to keep a growing population and a younger force, which is our strength, employed and create employment for them. I think development at a diffuse level of villages and townships is necessary if the population doesn't have to rush to the metropoles. That, I think, is an important thing. From a judiciary's perspective, I think one of the most important things which I feel has happened just on the annual is the notification issued by the Chief Justice setting down the manner in which hearings will take place in Supreme Court, especially controlling the oral time hearing. I've said for a long time that we cannot have an endless hearing. Most countries fix timelines within which it has to be managed. We have a growing and a burgeoning litigation field, which is the greatest challenge of the judiciary. And I think it is important that the time frame should be fixed, and we must work according to a structured schedule if we have to see the judiciary achieving some lowering of barriers, apart from issues like mediation flagged by the Chief Justice already. I think this is an important field in which how to get people justice at an earlier stage of time. I feel what has recently happened in the Aravali issue immediately comes to mind, possibly because it's also the last thing which has happened. It has raised a lot of hue and cry in public domain. And the issue of environment is become so important because people are feeling the effect of meddling with nature. And economic development must go hand in hand with ecology, which is an important part. Supreme Court putting in abeyance its earlier judgment, willingness to think about it and look to experts committee, I think is an important factor. The other judgment is the reconsideration of Vanshakti in giving an grant of approvals for environment clearance. The earlier judgment has been overruled 2:1. I'm not somehow in full agreement with the view taken in this field. And this has also generated some kind of a thinking process even within the Supreme Court, commenting that there have been a lot of flips in the views propounded by the court. I think it is necessary that sometimes a consistency will have to be also maintained, because law is also as how people understand law to be. So there has to be a more consistent approach on this. I would also say one of the judgments, considering a person like me who's retired and doing arbitration, has been the judgment on modification of the arbitral awards in the Gayatri Balsami case. Again, I seem to disagree with it because, and I tend to agree with the minority view adopted therein, because I feel it tends to open a Pandora's box, well-intentioned as it may be, in invoking the Article 142 and creating forums for challenge. We will have to go through an arbitration with the first scrutiny, second scrutiny, third review, and as it is, a curative has been by an earlier judgment introduced as another reopening. I think the problem would be worse than the cure which was sought to be set with. And this is in the background of the government adopting, while wanting India to grow as a hub of arbitration, somehow seems to be adopting a non-arbitration approach by saying it would not like the high-value matters to go into arbitration. That certainly I don't think can create an arbitration hub. So there are, of course, many judgments which have come, which have their own importance apart from these three, including striking down the issue of the Tribunal Act, which was brought in the same form, or the Speaker working as a tribunal in a matter and thus subject to judicial scrutiny. But then I don't think in this time frame we can talk about all of that.